memorable and enriching experience. Thank you. Okay. It's only proper that I do the honors and welcome the keynote speaker, who is the chair of Nigerian Bar Association section on business law, Dr. Adeoye Adefulu.
I was half expecting a drum roll, but that didn't come. Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here. Well, I say that with a little twist. When we're planning this event, Odun was sending me messages, etc., because it's a joint event. But we're also in the midst of conference planning. So Odun sent me a message, will you be so, and so? I said yes. Because there I was thinking that she was asking me to give an opening remark or something. I had no idea that it was a keynote address, but it's in the messages. It's right there. It's a keynote address. So, yeah, well, thank you, Odun, for the setup. I think clearly she was aware that, I was a bit distracted with the MBSBL conference. But to be honest, I think that Managing Partner Roundtable is really important discussion, and we started this last year. We, as MBSBL, were committed to the Managing Partner Roundtable, and we think that discussions such as the one that we're having today on pricing legal services, I think if you said just pricing legal services is enough, because there is a big challenge around pricing legal services in general. But pricing legal services in a depressed market is also really, really important. We have, I don't know, and I'm hoping that they are online. I'm hoping at least one is online, General Counsel. My wife should be there, so hopefully she's listening. She's General Counsel in the firm, in the company. But this challenge around pricing legal services, at least certainly since I have been practicing law, and the people that are more senior to me here, it's been a problem. And I have a particular story, and I'm hoping that client is not online. But there was a client that worked for them for quite some time, and we were engaged on a transaction. I think just the dates may be a bit off, but we were engaged on a transaction probably either 2008 or 2009. Certainly, I remember that at the time, dollar was still 120 to 1. Well, we're nowhere near that now. And I remember when we got engaged in this transaction, it was very intellectual, something that hadn't been done before, et cetera, et cetera. And we're negotiating price. And we sat down, had a discussion. The client ultimately came up with a number. And for the purpose of this, I will mention the number. But the number was 25 million at the time. 25 million at the time, again, that's $200,000, right? So, two things that are unique about this. The first is that we weren't really thinking, you got your 25 million, your 10 million, your 5 million. You weren't thinking about what it was equivalent to in dollars. It wasn't on your mind because dollar was accessible, you could change things, traveling was easy. You weren't thinking about conversion. Anyway, come back 10 years later, right? Client was doing a similar transaction. Says, hey, look, you helped us put to bed that transaction. We really like the way you worked on it and want you to continue. We were offered 15 million naira. And this was when dollar was now 750 to 1. So what was the equivalent of $200,000 now became the equivalent of $20,000. So what happened in the 10 years or 5 or how many years in between? What made the value of our services 10 times less worth it? And who got it right, who got it wrong? I want to believe that the second time they got it wrong. And there was no way I could work on that transaction, given the fact that I had this history. Unfortunately, my records, my emails, I keep emails from, I think I have my emails from 2006 on my computer. So I always go back. So I think it just speaks to the difficulties around pricing. How do we settle the pricing element? In Nigeria, when you're abroad, and when we have lots of these consultants or even law firms from abroad speak to us, they talk about hourly billing, etc., etc. It's mostly not acceptable to clients that are based in Nigeria. They don't want to hear about hourly, whether you are pricing the hourly in Naira or you're pricing it in dollar. They don't want to hear about that. Because there are naturally some inefficiencies in the system, and the client doesn't want to bear that cost. So, okay, it's fixed pricing. How do you calculate the fixed pricing? Even if I'm going to go back to hourly a little bit. How do you calculate the fixed pricing? What parameters do you use? Are you going to base it off what you did 5 years ago? Have you taken into account that the Naira 5 years ago is not worth the same thing? And is it value-based pricing? Okay, I'm going to charge you 5% or 10% of the value of the fees. We have not settled in Nigeria on what is the optimal way of charging. And the effect of this is that our law firms are suffering. Forget the fancy cars, forget the nice bow ties. I haven't worn a bow tie in a while. I just decided to wear it today and see my Oga wearing bow tie with me. The profession is suffering. We are losing our associates. Before we were competing with each other, and perhaps with the KPMGs and the PwCs of this world, and then in-house counsel. Now, we're competing with Canada, the US, the UK. We're competing with compliance. So instead of being lawyers, people have now decided to be compliance professionals. We are not able to pay what I consider a living wage for professionals because we don't earn enough, we don't collect on time, and it's a challenge. I think the NBA is aware of this challenge, and they've come out with a new initiative just last month. There's a remuneration. I'm never sure about that word. Is it remuneration or remuneration? I don't know. Whichever one, please just accept it. They've come out with a new order, which first time since 1991. It doesn't only deal with commercial. It wasn't disputes it was dealing with before. I think it was just land matters. And by the way, it was so confusing. I couldn't figure out how to calculate it. But it wasn't being used anyway. Nobody paid attention to it. But now they've come out with a new order. The new order deals with litigation disputes. The new order deals with commercial matters, tells you to charge hourly and gives a basis for charging hourly. It deals with land matters as well. And you are, by law, compelled to actually follow that order. Is that the solution? I don't know. The compulsion by law is, well, compelling. Nonetheless, will our clients take heed to this, and if we find out that you are not obeying the remuneration order, you have a duty as a lawyer, and it's in the order, to report to the MBA branch, and you can be brought up for disciplinary proceedings. Well, I've almost used up my time. I haven't answered any questions. I hope that I've thrown in more questions for you to debate and to discuss. We have a panel of experts sitting in front of us. But let me just leave you with this charge. This is a critical issue for the industry. I am hoping that this panel will come up with workable solutions that we can use to save the soul of the legal profession. I hope that's not too weighty a charge to leave with you. Thank you very much.
A round of applause again for Dr. Dio Adifulu. Okay, we will quickly move on to the panel session, and I will bring in up the speakers, the panelists. So as I call the panelists, I would appreciate if we could put our hands together for them. I will be starting with, okay, ladies first. Ms. Modukwe Olusoga. She is the Chief Operating Officer of Stream Source and Corn. A round of applause for Ms. Modukwe Olusoga. As she takes her seat. Okay, this way. Yeah, thank you. Oh, white or black? Okay. Okay. Put your hands together for Mr. Ajibola Olomola, partner KPMG. Which? Okay. Sorry for this setup. Let's put our hands together for Ms. Taiwo Afonja, managing partner, Denton's Acres Law. This way. I think there's some strategy around. I like the strategy around the sitting arrangements, yeah. Okay, let us put our hands together for Mr. Jola Akinwande, partner, Experiencing Advisory. Okay, we have one of our speakers who is joining us online, virtually on Zoom. A round of applause for Dr. Gabriel Onogurua, partner, Olaniwa Ajayi, UK. Hello, Dr. Gabriel. Good morning. Welcome. I would... Okay. Okay, can you speak, Dr. Onogurua?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Before inviting the moderator, I'd like to mention that one of our speakers, who recently has been appointed as the Attorney General and Honorable Commissioner for Justice in Abia State, Mr. Ikechukwu Wana, is unable to make it here today. We do believe that when we get the opportunity to have this conversation in the future, he will bring his expertise to bear. All right. I would like to bring forward or introduce our moderator. Sorry about that. A round of applause for our moderator, Ms. Aisha Remy, Managing Partner, Africa Law Practice, NG and Co. Okay. Oh, yes.
Too far. Okay.
Could you please?
Thank you. Oh, this doesn't work? Okay. Okay, good morning. distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for those who are present here and for those who are online. You know, the beauty about speaking after Dr. Adefulu is he does all the work for you. So he's talked about some of the things I'm going to talk about and has set the tone for what I hope will be a very interesting discussion this morning. Time is working fast again. So do we have 1 hour from now, or is it 45 minutes? Odun? Do we have 1 hour, or is it 45 minutes? 1 hour. Okay. And I have to apologize in advance that as soon as we're done, I'm unable to stay back for the Q&A session because I have to get on a flight. So I will be leaving as soon as I'm done. So again, thank you very much to everybody who has joined us physically or virtually. And welcome to this gathering of professionals from a very diverse legal and professional services sector. It is amazing to have such a vibrant mix of individuals here representing different levels and experiences in our industry. Sorry, I should apologize. You know, my people told me I shouldn't use paper. So I practiced using an iPad. And I forgot it at home. You know, my village people were really working. I got here, I came out of the car. Where's my iPad? So I'm sorry. Thankfully, I had a backup with paper. So I'm kind of struggling a bit. I'd practiced my swipe. Okay, anyway, in today's challenging economic climate, it is very important that more than ever, professionals are able to navigate the complexities of pricing their services effectively. We understand current market conditions have created unique challenges, and it is crucial for us to be able to come together and exchange insights and strategies to adapt to this environment. Throughout our discussions today, we will aim to explore innovative approaches and practical solutions that can help us navigate the intricacies of pricing legal services in a depressed market. By engaging in this conversation, we have an opportunity to learn from each other's experiences, share best practices, and identify potential opportunities for growth and success. It is through this collective knowledge exchange that we can uncover creative solutions and develop effective pricing strategies that align with the current market landscape. Thank you again for being here. And the way I intend to do this is I'll introduce each speaker, then I'll throw out a bunch of questions, or a question and then ask which speaker is more comfortable answering. So Dr. Adefulu has refused to join us on the panel. We have lost one, well, not lost, I apologize. One panelist is unavoidably absent because he's just been appointed as a Commissioner for Justice. So he's unavoidably absent today, and that is Ike Uwana. So we have Dr. Onogarua, who is online, and I'll give him that privilege to start with him. He is the current founding partner. He's a founding partner and chair of the Finance and Project Development Practice at Olaniwo Ajayi in the UK. It's Africa's first international law office located in London. Before this, Dr. Onogarua was a senior lawyer at the London office of White & Case and has expertise in advising development finance institutions, sponsors, developers, commercial banks, et cetera, and has an impressive portfolio that includes advising clients on transactions with a lot of money. He's a graduate of the great University of Ibadan. Okay, that's an alumni, in case you were wondering. And ended up at the University of Cambridge, where he got a master's and a PhD from Wolfson College. So I think throughout this, we'll refer to him as Doctor. Okay, and then we have Jola Akinwande, who's a partner at Experizon Advisory. Sorry, round of applause for Dr. Onogarua. Thank you. Then we have Jola Akinwande, who's a partner at Experizon Advisory. Experizon is a strategic brand management and marketing communications firm in Lagos. He has a wealth of experience spanning over 14 years and has expertise in developing and executing strategies that have supported top-level companies in achieving their growth. He co-pioneered brand marketing and communications at a leading Nigerian law firm, in case people are wondering what he brings to this panel. So again, round of applause for Mr. Akinwande. I'm saving the best for last, so the women are coming at the end. Next, we have Mr. Ajibola Olomola, who's partner and head of deal advisory, M&A and financial tax services at KPMG. He also serves as the general counsel for, it calls it the firm, but is KPMG a firm? We'll come to that discussion later. Okay, but he's general counsel. He's been at this for well over 34 years, and sorry, I can't read my paper, forgive me. I think everybody knows me. Yes, okay, all right. Well, a round of applause for Mr. Ajibola. Then we have Modupe Olusoga. She's a seasoned operations and human resources professional. She has over 15 years' experience in finance advisory, consulting, and legal services. She has expertise in helping organizations achieve their corporate goals and is currently the Chief Operating Officer at S&K. That is my remuneration. That's my word. That their firm. Streams. Yes, yes. It's a bit of a mouthful. S&K. S&K. Okay. Mr. Wana, as I said, is unavoidably absent. And then we have Ms. Afonja. Ms. Taiwo Afonja is managing partner of Denton's ACAS, and she's a member of the Energy and Project Finance Practice Group. She focuses on energy and natural resources and has represented various multinationals on licensing, acquisitions, divestments, and strategic alliances. So I think that's enough for introductions, but a round of applause for Ms. Afonja. Great. Thank you. So if we look at our topic today, it talks about pricing legal services in a depressed market. I think I'm going to ask you to help us, because you're from KPMG, can you define for us really, because we all talk about a depressed market, but what does it mean in terms of the economy? Can we have some kind of... Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha, and good day, everyone, and many thanks to Anand for bringing me out to speak today. I thought you wanted a view from outside of the box. I would have liked to disagree with Dr. Adeoye when he says that the market is depressed, because from where I sit at KPMG, the invoices we see from law firms when they bill our clients, it doesn't look depressed from where I sit. I mean, look at his bow tie. Does that bow tie look depressed to you? So, and when we worked together on projects, I was having a moment with Modupe where she's also ex-KPMG, by the way. So, and by the time you see law firms poaching chief operating officers from KPMG, that's also something, right? So depressed, did you say? So, you know, but to the subject, Nigeria is challenged. Thankfully, Nigeria is not depressed. We've gone through cycles of that when your growth rates turn negative for 2 consecutive cycles, then technically you're in depression. And Nigeria did go through that twice under the administration of the last presidency. And of course, one of the signs of a depressed market is that the ability of the market to generate revenue for the participants in that market become challenging. Let me bring it to where we can all understand, since Dr. Adeoye did refer to the exchange rates. So all of a sudden, your ability to generate revenues to enable you pay your costs begin to compress, and therefore there are less opportunities in the market. So perhaps a client would have engaged a law firm to render advice on certain transactions in the past. But in a depressed market, they're going to have to think twice about that. And say to themselves, if I engage a law firm that's going to charge me an arm and a leg, am I not better off just copying and pasting the last agreement I got from them and hoping for the best? And we've seen copy and paste agreements all over the place. And they're wreaking havoc on the business landscape because these are agreements that lawyers have not reviewed. Now, when you look at the agreement template, you'll see the name of a law firm. It's only when the dispute arises that you realize that the law firm had nothing to do with it. It was just copy and paste. So that's what happens in a challenging market. Clients are not able to afford legal services. They know they need legal services, so they will sometimes piggyback on something, or they go for a cheaper alternative. So perhaps I would have engaged S&K, if I may call, SSK, if I may follow Aisha's description. Perhaps I would have used SSK. But then I'll call Ajibola Olomola Legal Practitioners, who is a smaller firm, perhaps cheaper firm, and then if Ajibola Olomola is not exposed or is not a specialist in the area where I had previously used SSK. Now I'm using a lawyer, right? I'm getting a cheaper fee, but I may not be getting the quality that I actually need. Those are the things you begin to see in a challenging market, and then to make matters worse, because there's fewer opportunities out there, you see law firms begin to undercut each other. So I'm Ajibola Olomola, maybe I'm a competitor to SSK, I know who SSK's clients are, and I secularize all of them, offering them lower fees. Now, that's a market where you're not seeing growth, because new entrants are not coming in. So we're all circling around the old entrants, and we're all just making a mess of it. Now, I don't believe the Nigerian market is depressed, but I do believe the Nigerian market is challenging. And that challenge requires law firms to be able to think on their feet. And hopefully by the time we're done today, we'd have shared a few lessons on what can be done to make law firms better. And I mean, I can't think of anyone better than Modupe, who has come out of a structured environment. The way the accountants do it is very rigorous, they're bean counters, those guys. I'm a lawyer, so I feel like I'm one of you, so, but those guys are bean counters, yeah? Law firms are very casual. So when I was working with FRA Williams before I joined the accounting firm, the way we would determine our billing rates would be to say, what's Aluko charging? What's Ajumogobia charging? Okay, yeah, so that's our own rates as well. We just copy. But their costs are wildly different, right? At that time, Ajumogobia were on the island. We were at Ulupeju. FRA is still at Ulupeju. Our costs and overheads are not the same. The salaries we pay are not the same. The revenue we need to keep the firm afloat are not the same. So the components of that billing charge, of that billing rate, are not equal. And then to make matters worse, there was no knowledge of the number of hours a professional has to work in any year at those rates in order to attain the budget for the year to keep the firm running. Everything was just done experientially, Let's just, just hope for the best, right? And then at the end of the year, you'll know whether you made a profit or a loss. But I don't want to hog the microphone, so I'll give it back to Aisha.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know how many people, and that's, we go back to the definition of depressed. And certainly if the market isn't depressed, or challenging as you call it, I think a lot of people are depressed in the market. It's, I think there are different prisms through which people look at this, as we've seen in recent times with petrol prices and stuff like that. But, I think we live in a community where generally people are reluctant in any case to pay for professional services, be it law, be it insurance, be it even medical. There are a lot of Google doctors out there, people who sit and just think that, I can do this. Or the last time I went, they gave me Augmentin, so this time I'll just take 1,000 milligrams as opposed to 650. No, it happens, and we're all guilty of it in some shape or form, and so our profession, I don't think, is necessarily different. But the important thing, and Modupe, he pulled your name out, so I'm going to come to you, is how should law firms look at pricing their services whilst able to keep their clients satisfied and also maintaining their professional obligations? Because this cut and paste job, is a problem. But
yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay, thank you for having me, Alan. So to me, my thought is I don't think there's a defined way. There is no one size fit all when it comes to pricing. Reason being that all law firms deal with different categorization of clientele. Your level of expertise to an extent differs. You may be practicing the same areas of law, but then the depth of knowledge differs. I will say the 3 things or 4 things that comes to mind. 1, what is the categorization of your clients? If you do your client profiling, what is the ability to pay? Because truth is, when it comes to pricing, everybody wants more money. So let's forget about the fact whether the economy is challenged or depressed. We all want more profitability. But the question is, with the clients that you have at the moment, what is their ability to pay you more? The second part is expertise, which is knowledge. That is really what law firms sell to clients. We give them value. So what value are you bringing to the table? There are certain clients you will have, and without thinking twice, if you tell them, oh, I'm considering increasing my prices, they will not argue with you because they know you've added so much value to their firm, to their organization. So to me, then the third part I would say is the relationship. I've seen a situation where a client wants to increase their pricing, and the first time the client got to know was when they got the invoice. And yes, they did lose the clients. So what is our client relationship strategy? So it's a whole lot of things mixed together. And I would say for every law firm, we just need, for each law firm, we need to sit down to do this analysis. The data are there. What are we doing with the data? And when we say profitability, we're not talking about revenue. Because I know quite a number of people will say, oh, I'm issuing this number of invoices out. This is the figure I'm bringing in terms of revenue. But we're talking about profitability when you've taken out your operational expenses. When you sit down and you look at your data, what is your data telling you? What is the categorization of your clients? I'll give an instance. And the analogy I will use is the coconuts. We all know the coconut, and sometimes when we go to the beach, they give us the coconut. We can drink it as water. And once we take the coconut water, we discard it because it hasn't grown to the level of using the coconut itself for other things. But if only the harvester had nurtured it a little bit, that same coconut can be used in 4 or 5 different ways, from flour to a whole lot of other things. So the question is, the clients in question, what can they bring to the table? Not in the immediate, perhaps in the near future or in the long term. So for each client, the pricing strategy may differ. For a client that you know, this one might just be once and for all, we can slam them a very good, interesting trip, like he said, maybe a 25 million, 100 million bill, literally, perhaps maybe in USD, you know? And for some clients that you know there is a possibility of them bringing more to the table, you're not focused on what you're getting in the immediate. You're asking yourself, what else? How else can I groom this relationship? How else can I add value to those clients in such a way that by the time I start stylishly increasing my price, they're not going to argue with me? So what I see, or what I see, and from conversations with few lawyers in and out of my firm, is sometimes we want to get the result now, but sometimes more often than not, just like a cocoa plant. Sorry, I'm using a lot of analogy. You know, you have to cultivate. You have to ask yourself deep questions, and you have to be true to yourself. And when we speak about value, sometimes we don't have it all. We can't be the alpha and the omega. The question is, what kind of collaborations do you do? When we talk about expertise, how interested are you in the business of the organization that you're dealing with? Is it all about the brief they bring to you? Or you ask yourself the questions outside the box. What else can this client do? I've seen situations whereby lawyers are the one that gives the clients ideas of how to make more money. So in such a deal, do you think the clients will take it elsewhere? No, they'll bring it to you. So I think we, at different time, when it comes to pricing strategies, we have to wear different cap for different clients. Then also have in-house rules that helps us keep those checks and balance in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Badukwe. So, Ms. Afonja, ACAS is one of the older, Denton's ACAS, my apologies, and that ties in with branding. So I'll come to branding. I'll come to branding in a second. But Denton's ACAS obviously has been around for years in this new image that it has also. But certainly it's one of the older firms. How, over the years, have you seen a downturn in clients actually looking for quality legal services? and just to go back to what Ajibola said earlier about people just doing the cut and paste. How have you sort of been able to work with your clients to keep them happy and keep, sorry, we'll keep this on this side. We'll keep this one on this side. Have you seen a downturn in clientele and this sort of negotiating structure or issue that they always bring up? Oh, you charged us 25 before, but we're only going to pay 15. Have you seen a lot of that?
As recent as 2 weeks ago.
Sorry?
I said as recent as 2 weeks ago. So over the years, and thank you very much, yes, Denton's ACAS law. Over the years, it has always been the case that clients will seek to negotiate their fees. I don't think it's that they don't appreciate the value you bring. It's just a question of what they have decided would be the legal spend for that particular piece of work. So you also have to work with them. Now, in terms of cut and paste and whether you have clients who decide that because you've done this, about 3 weeks or so ago, and there was this transaction that we were working on, and the client gave us a draft of an agreement that had been prepared by a foreign solicitor. And by the way, competition is not only local, it's actually foreign. And I digress a bit so that I'll just address that quickly. And the client told us point blank, we have to charge XYZ because the foreign solicitor was charging XYZ, right? We were going to do more. Why should we match our fees with a foreign solicitor who has no clue as to Nigerian law, doesn't understand the intricacies and the specialties that are required to practice law, and with specific reference to that area and that project? But we were told that we had to match that foreign solicitor's fees. So the competition is there, and you just have to find a way to walk around the competition. And back to what you had said about cut and paste. So the client gives us the document and says, oh, but you're not really going to do much. You just cross out English jurisdiction, just put Nigeria. You just change the parties, And so I sat back and I listened to the client, and you also have to let them finish, right? Because at the end of the day, they're still your clients, and you do want to, you want the brief. So as he was talking, my mind was just going, how creative can I be to ensure that I charge more than the foreign solicitor? Because what the foreign solicitor was charging was not what I believed was the actual value for the amount of work that was going to be put into the transaction, particularly from a Nigerian point of view. So as he was talking, and the cut and paste and all of that, I let him finish, and I said, okay, yes, we have a precedent, but don't forget XYZ, Nigerian law, we have to consider this the regulator. So I had to sort of, to overcome that cut and paste situation, prove that we were bringing more value than the draft that was prepared by a foreign solicitor. So the key thing is you need to be, and it's not one size fits all. So for each transaction or each situation that you are faced with, a client telling you that, oh, you're not going to be doing much, I already have a precedent, you have to dig deep, take a step back, analyze the situation, look at the project, then think about the value you are bringing over and above the cut and paste syndrome, if I could use that word, and then you must be able to sell that to the client in such a way that you would actually get the value that is due to you. So, he spoke and all of that, and then we had to be creative with how we were going to bill to get the actual value and actually get a little bit more than the foreign solicitor. So that's how we sorted out that cut and paste syndrome in that particular situation. But yes, it does exist, but you have to continuously, what is the word now? You have to continuously show your value to the client and know your value, because that's another thing. Clients also have this sometimes way of discounting your value. Is it not? Yes. What are you? Yes. About 2 weeks ago, and maybe last week or so, another client came into the office, and, there's some clients that are pretty knowledgeable. You have to give it to them. They know what they're saying, But, so this client came across as, at the end of the day, it was going to be a question of the bottom line. Since I know this, and this was going to, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm a lawyer, and I'm going to give you certain keys, if I could use that word, certain principles and certain ways in which you can structure this transaction, that even if you do have some knowledge, it's going to trump that knowledge and add significant value to your transaction, so that you pay me for the value, that I'm bringing to the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And it's kind of knocked my branding question back just a little bit, because you mentioned foreign firms. And so, Doctor, I'm going to come to you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, yes, we can. So you clearly now have the best of both worlds, because we sitting here are often told that if the foreigners are charging X, why can't you? So from your end there, and also you operate in an environment where I think clients understand the concept of using legal services much more than we do, or they appreciate it more. And we find, and I don't know how you can correct me if I'm wrong, but even the concept of hourly billing is expected. We've worked with foreign clients who, when you say, oh, we can do a fixed fee, they're like, no, give us your hourly rate. And we're always a bit sort of reluctant to do that, because you think it might scare people off because of the, the inefficiencies, I think, they were used of the system, which means that matters can be prolonged. But how does billing on your side work? And we've all heard of broken Britain. We don't know how true that is, but are you going through your own depression at the moment, or is your economy? And how has that affected your ability to bill? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Aisha. So on the issue of depression, I would imagine that we're using that as broadly as possible, and it would, incorporate the impact that global political and economic downturns may have on our economy, the impact that changes in government and regulations may have on the economy, and therefore the type of work that's coming to us, or a shift in business focus for your client. For example, if your client was formerly heavily invested in the oil and gas sector, but all of a sudden is wearing the energy transition hat, and you're looking to divert your business away, and you were typically just an oil and gas lawyer, does that lead to a depression on your side as a lawyer, given that the type of work may be moving away from that perspective? So, and then there may be technological advancement that just makes the business shift, or maybe the type of services that you are providing to the client may be obsolete, such that things are changing. So depression, in a way, is not local. It could be local, but it could also be global. The impact of global financial crisis, for example, was felt all around the world. But just to take you back to the issue of pricing, it is true that in a market like the UK, hourly rates are usually seen at a certain point. Irrespective of the fee structure that eventually adopts, the hourly rates will be the bedrock. As you know, you can have hourly rate structure, you can have fixed fee structure, and you can also have what we call conditional fee arrangements. But typically, all the variants will still be based on an hourly rate structure. And that bedrock provides a form of, should I say, ways that law firms can then quantify or analyze how much time, and therefore how much money they are to look to make from a particular transaction. But I'll come back again, the key basis on which you fix those hourly rates can vary. For junior lawyers, because they're always coming out from the law school, typically, whether you're a city firm or you're a high street firm, that rate will not vary so much. But as you go up the ladder, as the level of experience varies, the hourly rates for each lawyer will vary depending on their year of qualification, the amount of experience they have, and the perception in the market. So you see a very wide delta from the very sophisticated city firms to the high street firms on the amount that they can charge on the hourly rates. But typically, we are seeing a number of pressure on unlimited hourly rates. Since the global financial crisis, law firms, even in the UK, even in the US, where it's highly very litigious, they no longer have an would see now flipping in cap fee arrangements, flat fee arrangements, and retainer. So while law firms continue to calculate their price on the basis of hourly rates, clients will say, okay, but I want an idea, I want a fix, I want to know what the cap is on this transaction. So we are beginning to see a bit of a back and forth as well. But in coming to an arrangement on fixed fee or conditional fee arrangement, there is a need for lawyers to then appropriately craft and scope the work that will be doing for the client. Determining your scope of work can mean you start from, for example, say 100,000. But that scope of work would list out the details of what you intend to do with the client. It will list out the timing assumptions, and it will carve out the areas of law you would want to cover. Given the nature of transactions, whether litigious or non-litigious, there is a tendency that when you get to the middle of the transaction, clients will start to ask for more. What then becomes important is the level of correspondence or communication between the lawyer and the client. As has been said before, you cannot just slam additional fee beyond an agreed fixed arrangement or capital with the client without explanation. So regular communication as to where you are. When the client is giving you additional work beyond the scope of work, you must be communicating that this is not covered by your terms of engagement. Agreeing, negotiating what the additional fees will be, providing regular updates, and sending all of this by email. So that although you agreed on $100,000 at the beginning, if the fee rises up to say $500,000, you have email trails documenting all of that increase and why to do that. If you do not have that correspondence, it's very difficult to justify to everybody present. But if you've been sending those regular correspondence, there's been communication both ways, it is easy for you to say, yes, we agreed on this fixed fee based on our hourly rate, but beyond that scope of work, and because we exceeded it, or because the timing assumptions have been reached, this is why we are now at this rate. So I think documentation, regular communication, appropriately and correctly scoping the work you're doing for the client is one way in which in this market, even though there's been a pushback on the hourly rate, lawyers are still able to, as much as possible, end their work from transactions for which we are working. And I hope I've been able to provide some kind of, should I say, background of which we can further discuss this subject.
Yes, thank you so much. And as you were talking about updates and keeping the client informed and, so that they know they're getting value for money, I looked over at my associates in the room and they were taking notes. They know themselves. They're diligently taking notes. So, thank you so much, Doctor. Let's talk about branding and marketing. And lawyers tend to be quite bashful, probably because we've been conditioned that way, to not advertise, so to speak. So we're very sort of, like I said, bashful about promoting our brands. But obviously, we know today, and I'm going to let Jola speak on it, how branding and marketing is very important in how your clients and the general environment perceives you as a firm. So, Jola, how can we help ourselves to be visible and recognizable?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Sorry, afternoon or morning. Yeah. So I'd like to answer that question from a slightly different perspective. When he spoke about pricing and how you have to present your value, right? I think that is where a lot of law firms are actually lacking. Now, I've worked in that sector before, and I can tell you that law firms are not doing enough in that regard. So, first of all, price wars are never going to go away, right? And competition will never stop. And most times, they tend to focus on what competition is doing without focusing on what you can do better for ourselves. So I want to give, and because we're lawyers, sometimes we're the ones offering the service, we're the sellers of the service. So most times, we don't see it from a perspective. So I want to use an illustration, right? So I would like to use the medical services sector. which I think is very similar to what doctors do to humans. I think is very similar to what lawyers do to businesses. Businesses can't survive without lawyers, right? So permit me to use this example. So assuming you move into Lekki phase 1, or Lekki, right, and you need a hospital, you need to engage a hospital. I mean, you can't see a doctor without going through the hospital. So what hospital comes to your mind, first of all, in Lekki phase 1? In Lekki, no, don't answer yet. So now imagine also, right, you have VI, and you have maybe Lagos Island, right? Okay, now we can answer the question. I don't need to even say, the first hospital that will come to your mind is Evercare. Not because that's the only hospital, but they're very strategic, right? You can see the location. Now, this has nothing to do with Evercare. I don't know anything about the services. I've been there just once, and I think I'm on the database, but pretty much I don't have any clue how the services are. And I don't know how good that location is. Anybody can argue the location is good or not. But you can obviously see that in terms of visibility, that achieves its purpose, right? So let me take us through a buying decision for somebody who wants to patronize medical services. So first thing is, okay, all said and done, visibility is good. Most times the next thing you want to actually do, you want to either go online, right? Check about, what are people saying about these kind of services, or you want to listen to referrals, or you want to go into the hospital, facility and actually find out what it is. So let me say, if I were to do it, I'll first of all go there, right? So let's say you go in, very well, services well put together, facility looking very good. Next thing you want to do is actually engage, right, the people there and ask. And I'm saying if you want to, let's assume you have a situation, like a medical situation, not someone who's just looking to, enroll a hospital, right? So assuming, God forbid, assuming the person has a history of cancer or something serious, right? You want to ask specific questions about the consultants they have, the facilities they have. So assuming you ask all the right questions, you get all the right answers, tick, tick, tick. Next thing you're going to do is probably go online and, check whether there are the reviews here and there. Then you look for referrals. And then finally, you probably get the pricing right. Now, I'm giving this example because I'm trying to take our mind through the things that go into the pricing decisions of people who patronize professional services, right? At that point, when you find out and, everything looks okay, all the boxes are ticked, you might actually consider, you might be swayed into actually making that decision to actually patronize them. But most people will still want to check, okay, let's look at the ones with VI, maybe you have a Reddington, or you have St. Nicholas, everything put together, fine. Next question is, when you have all the services, all the offers, all the experiences you've had, put everything on the table, and you're comparing 3 or 4 firms together, hospitals, I can bet you that most times the final decision is in the pricing. You would have weighed everything from the experience you've had with them, the proximity, the presence of the experts, the kind of facility they have. Okay. All right. So you would have to weigh everything, right, before you get to that point of making that decision. And in making that decision, I can tell you that more often than not, it is not the pricing. It is a summation of every other thing that you have experienced, how you were able to find the information about them, the kind of experience you had with them in making these inquiries, and then finally you make your buying decision. I would also say that, okay, so let me quickly say this, right? In terms of marketing, there's something called a purchasing funnel. People who have done business school or something, right? Who've done some form of business school will probably have heard about it. But it's very simple. The marketing funnel, the way the shape of the funnel is. The top of it is awareness, right? Next level is interest. Next level is desire, and then action. So let me use this example again.
at the point where you where you find out about the hospital, that's awareness, right? Then the next level is interest. At that point, that made you go into the hospital itself. That's the interest phase. And then you now go into the decision making, the desire where you have to make inquiries, you weigh your decisions, evaluate everything, and then finally you make a decision. Now, bringing that into the legal services sector, I actually see a lot of law firms doing very well in terms of creating awareness of their services. I can bet you if you look at other professional services sectors, you would see that nobody is doing it as well as law firms are doing it. The only issue I see many times is that I feel there's a lot of copycatting going on. I feel people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And if they're doing, it's basic, like it's a basic thing. You need to put your craft out there. You need to be on social media. You need to have a good website. Those things are very basic. But then, what is the next stage? What do you get from that? I think she's the one who spoke about data. What do you do with the data? So in terms of professional services, sorry, let me just take water. Sorry. So in terms of professional services, right? In terms of the legal services, every time you post something online, right, you're having thought leadership, speaking engagements, all those things you're doing, you're apparently feeling that top bucket called awareness, right? The awareness bucket is actually very full in many firms. But the next level is where the challenge is, right? The next level, which is interest, is where I think a lot of law firms need to start doing better. Don't forget that these things are going to inform the pricing decision or the decision of the buyer at the end of the day. So speaking about interest phase, anybody who's even followed you on social media has actually shown some interest. Anybody who's already on your database, whether you got it from a conference you went for or from whatever place you got, once you have that database there. But a lot of people want to use the same strategies that you used initially, sending general messages. She spoke about having target clients, having client database, right? So at that point, you need to specifically now start tailoring your strategies and your branding strategies towards meeting the needs of these people. Sometimes you need to engage them differently. You can't send, in fact, a lot of people send, generate newsletters and all these things. Trust me, the clients don't get it. Most times, it actually ends up in their spam emails, right? Apart from that, sometimes if you get 2-3 relevant newsletters from a client, the next time the relevant one comes, you actually don't want to read it anymore. And there's also the thing about how you even put the subject, right? The subject is the only thing that shows on your email thread, on your email interface. So if in the first 5, 6, 7, 8 words, you can't even pass that message across, then it becomes a problem. So all your targeted, but to even target the clients, you can't make it general. They have to be different strategies and approaches to meeting up with these people. So assuming now that you were able to do that, right? The third part, which is the desire, which is the most important part, is how to now bump up your value offering. And that is where I think is very critical. Mr. Fonja spoke about value proposition. A lot of times in the value proposition, and I'm also merging that with what Doctor said, sometimes how you eventually put and package your proposal, or sometimes even your one-on-one conversation with the person, how you eventually present your offering, your proposal to them. The proposal is, first of all, organization, right, presentation, and then content, right? I think a lot of times these things get mixed up. The content is not compelling enough. The organization is not good enough. And I think that is the point where you can actually bring up a lot of the offerings. Everything the client has seen, online about you, they heard about you, this is the time to validate it. This is the time to be able to put forth that expertise, right? And if you're able to do that conveniently, and you do that very well, comprehensively, if you do that comprehensively, put all your package together, put a bumper value offering, Let's say you've nailed the pricing, and the pricing is a little flexible, your pricing is competitive, and it's transparent, which is what most clients want to see when it comes to pricing. I believe, actually, from experience, I know that at that point, that is the point you can actually get to sway your client in terms of the pricing. Now, there are some clients that will not even budge, irrespective of what you do. And the first example that Doctor gave, I think not all clients are your clients, right? Some clients are not going to pay for it no matter what. But I believe that if we're able to put our offerings together, if we're able to do all the stages of the funnel, right, and you're able to tick all those boxes, you're able to dot the I's and cross the T's, after all is said and done, you should be able to have a very compelling proposal, right, that is going to be your basis for negotiating with the clients. People are only going to pay for the value they want to derive. Let's be honest, the same person who is going to walk into a dealership and buy a Rolls Royce will still go to a Toyota dealership and he will walk into the place and not even price it, right? We'll still go into the Toyota place and still price it, negotiate the price, haggle the prices until he's able to get to what he believes is the value he's paying for. So bottom line is, if we're able to package our offerings, package our experience, put it together, and put a very compelling value proposition to clients, I believe it's going to be easier to be able to reach better pricing decisions. Thank you.
Okay, I like that. Not all clients are your clients. I think that's, yeah, you need to, be, as they are selective about you, you also need to be selective. So assuming we're able to navigate all these challenges and reach alternative fee arrangements, bearing in mind the kind of clients, the work, the relationship, all of that. So I think Doctor spoke about fixed fee, hourly, retainer, conditional, all of that. I don't want to spend too much time on that. You then have clients that just won't pay. It doesn't matter, and they usually start off good. They draw you in, I think the word is love bomb you. They draw you in, and you're fine, and they're happy. And then, after a while it becomes, yeah, okay, well, but just keep going. So, I mean, the issue has now been thrown out that perhaps lawyers should charge interest. How practical is that? Ms. Afonja, oh, sorry. Only because I was staring right at you and you were nodding, you were in agreement. I'll come to him and I'll come to Ajibola in a second. Thank you. I think you used the handheld. Okay. Well, I guess the whole idea of this panel is to also, I'm trying to see whether I should disclose some trade secrets or not. So I'm trying to think about, that's I'm just a bit.
We're here to learn from each other.
Okay.
Best practices.
So yes, we do include in our engagement letters that we will charge interest on late fees. We also take into consideration the fact that we don't want to lose the client, right? And we also don't want too much of a pushback from the client. So in the engagement letter, we do say we will charge interest. We also state that if you anticipate that you may have some challenges in paying the fees before the due date, let us know. So that shows to them that as much as you want to charge interest, and you are still flexible to accommodate the potential of the late payments, right? So my opinion, lawyers should include the fact that they would charge interest on late fees. Now, in actual reality, do you actually charge interest? We haven't really done that. Because what it does in the letter of engagement is a two-sided coin. Positively, it will incentivize them to make sure they pay on time when they see it on paper, because that engagement letter is a contract, right? And they know they're dealing with lawyers. So it has that effect of incentivizing them to, ensure that they pay quickly, right? So That happens. The negative is that, you may have them push back, and I must say something here though. How to negotiate with your clients and how to even deal with the interest issues and late payments is both a science and an art. It's a science because you need the data that you have, to Ms. Jumoke, right? Modupe spoke about, categorizing your clients and all of that. So, there's the science, use the data for that. But then the art is also, who is this client? Use the emotional intelligence. What kind of client is this? If I put interest in this engagement letter, will that client push back? Or the client is used to it, so, whatever, they know it's a business. So that also plays a part in determining how you would word that engagement letter, and also those that you would say you're going to put interest to. But we always, we put that in the agreement. So when that happens, you put that in the agreement, it incentivizes them to pay on time. And for those who don't pay, we've not really had to charge interest because, as I said, we include in our engagement letters, if you have any challenges, let us know. Okay. So we are able to, talk to them. They also engage with us, and then we map out how we will deal with the late fees. But a step further, though, is that if it takes a long time to actually pay, we've even moved beyond interest to writing a letter to wind up.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very
because
interesting.
Creditors, yes, because you are owing us for 1 year, 2 years,
Yes.
3 years, 4 years, 5 years, someone has to pay for that, So that's also something we do. So it's a science and an art. You look at it, I believe that interest should be charged for late because it's a service anyway you're providing, right? And you're being deprived of your fees. And they are also, the brief they're bringing to you is for their business, right? So they're also making money, with respect to the matter, subject matter of the brief. So yes, I think that interest should be charged. And I think that you just have to sort of, look at the numbers and the emotional intelligence, science, and the art of determining how you'd actually work out that interest and apply it to the specific client. It's always client specific. There is no magic singular bullet to solve this issue. Absolutely none. Yeah.
That's very insightful. Thank you very much. I think Ajibola wanted to say something on this. Oh.
Okay. Well, I'll try not to cover what Taiwo has covered.
Yes.
But I think it's also cultural, you see.
Yes.
Because when I started practicing law, the first 10 years of my life, of my professional life, we struggled to even have conversations around pay us our invoice. Yes. We've sent the invoice, we're still working for the client, we don't even follow up. So I think the direction of travel that the Nigeria Bar Association is going on now, as shown in the order, I think it was May 2023, because it was the NBA president that mailed it around to all of us.
Yes.
So the direction of travel is an attempt to change the culture, to make lawyers more comfortable asking for our fees, including interest. So if Taiwo is willing to file a petition for creditors winding up, why would that claim not include the interest accrued? Because in the order that the NBA has issued, they are requiring us all, lawyers now, not accounting firms, I wish we could piggyback on it.
I'm coming back to that.
They're asking us all, you all, to include interest. Yes. And it should kick in after a month's default. So you have a month, every client has a month of grace. If after that month they haven't paid you, the interest should be there. And like Doctor told us at the outset, compliance with the order is not discretionary. Lawyers have to comply with the order. Yes. So if you take nothing away from this session, it is that you should include interest in your, otherwise you will be breaching NBA's rule. You should include interest, and after 1 month, you should insist on it. Now, you can decide to waive it. Maybe it's your interest. Yes. You can decide to waive it if the client is a good client, compensate you one way or another. But let it not be by default. Let them not take us for granted. Yes. We had, look, in that firm that I was, we had invoices that were years old, and we were still working with the client.
Absolutely.
And they were not paying us.
Yes.
You want the firm to go down?
Yes.
And exchange, and you still have to pay your school fees. And look, guys, include the interest. or else you are breaching NBA rule.
If I could just add to that, sorry. Now, one of the things I found out about the NBA rules, and for those who have actually read the order, is that it actually stops shy of telling you to charge interest on your professional fees, right? Because the words in the order is on your expenses, right? So I'm not sure they really contemplated that you need to, because there's a difference between your fees, right?
Yes,
and your
and your
expenses,
expenses, yes,
right? So I
yes.
think that we probably need to take it a step further beyond the order and actually charge interest, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So words of wisdom from Mr. Ajibola, charge interest. But please bear in mind he wears two hats. So he's in professional services as well as law. Doctor, how common, or is the charge is interest chargeable? Is doctor there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. In the UK, what happens as far as interest is concerned? Is that something that is commonplace?
So default interest is, as a matter of financial practice, the usual occurrence, including in legal practice fees. But to answer this question, I think you've already touched on it quite a bit. It is a very cultural matter. As you know, it could lead to a strain in client relationships. Sometimes it creates administrative burden. You want to be a trusted advisor, and you're also the one chasing me to pay the fee on a monthly basis. So that's where I think a sharp distinction is. It's something we're going to take away from pursuing our invoices. There is a need for firms to graduate to a level where you have professionals within the team whose job it is working with the accounting team to chase up on the fees, including the interest that's go along, so that the lawyers are one step removed from the process and continue to keep the cordial relationship with the client when it comes to professional work, but someone else is actually lighting up the fire to make sure fees get paid. And basically his remuneration is dependent on the rate of success. Of course, the lawyers would in time jump in, but it's already been said in the room here, not all clients are your client. Or
Yes.
what value is the client that is not paying you? When you have expenses to bear every month, you have salaries to pay, you have fees to pay, what is the benefit of a client not paying for 3 years, 4 years? So there is a need for lawyers, in a way, for law firms to try and demarcate that invoice chasing exercise to someone else whose success is dependent on the rate of recovery. There's a need for that to be done at least on a monthly basis and to get that way. But you've already said it would sometimes clients may resist, sometimes there may be a strained relationship. But I think the best way to do it is to try and demarcate the role of the face of the lawyer from those chasing invoices. I think what the lawyer needs to do is agree what the fee is. But in terms of someone collecting those fees, it's usually best practice. And in the UK, one of the defaults and the matter is turned into a bad debt. It's totally someone else chasing for those fees. Rather than make it external, in a way you can still bring it within the house and give yourself a maximum of 6 months to try and claim back the fees because someone is chasing. I think we are busy enough as lawyers doing what the law requires to then take up the law trying to chase invoices. You would notice that if you chase it this month, you might forget next month. But it is someone's responsibility on a weekly basis, monthly basis, to chase their fees, and if on a quarterly basis you're doing this review and is not chased and cannot provide you with updates, the collection rate is likely going to be much better. In the firms we have been involved in, there has been, that practice of separating it and making sure that someone's success is dependent on the recovery rates for invoices.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. And it's really quite incredible that the hour has already gone. I'm stunned. I just look, yes, it's gone. But I just want to throw one last issue out for both of you to chew on. We talk about, professionalism, the new remuneration. See, doctor has got me confused now. Remuneration order and stuff. And it basically says at some point that if you find a lawyer that is undercutting you, essentially, you should report to the MB. How practical is that? And will people, because you said it, there will always be price wars. So for us, it doesn't matter, you know, what you do. There's always somebody out there who's willing to do it at half the price. So how do we legislate or mitigate those factors? Do we go back to not all clients are your clients and walk away? Do we actively go to the MBA and say, Mr. Lagbaja here charged this when I know he should have charged that, and, you know, therefore he's caused me undue distress?
Thank you. Okay, so I often say one thing. There is the practice of law, which we all the lawyers in here are doing well. Then there's the business of law. Unfortunately, not all lawyers are good at practicing the business of law. And if you recall earlier on, I said something about the level of expertise in different firms differ. So to me, it might be somewhat funny if this is what the guidelines are saying, this is what the order says I should charge. What SS Cone would charge, like Jibola said earlier, is different from what Jibola and Co will charge. And that's probably because, in SSK, there is a son. In Jibola, it's probably Jibola and others, literally. So to me, the practicability of that, I really truly don't know. And that's because of the substance, the expertise, the value that the different professionals in each of the law firm, what they bring to the table, differ. So to me, I think the practicability might not really be there. Rather, I'd say there are guidelines about how we shortcut each other, how we entice each other's clients. But in terms of pricing, it should really be at the discretion of the client. If the client is willing to pay, it's because, like he said, they see the value. There's the perceived value and there's the actual value. Perceived value really is what I think you like, but after testing the water once, I might choose to just stay away and someone else come and I decide to go with the person. So what is the client saying and what is the client willing to pay? So it's not about it. Also, one other thing I will add before, because we're running short of time, is relationship. Some clients, law firms, lawyers have built relationship with them over the years. And that's why they will go to sleep knowing fully well this client is not going anywhere, because I've literally watered, I've planted, I've cultivated the relationship with this client. So you can now imagine the client having someone else just working yesterday and wanting to reap at the same level of someone who had literally sold in that organization for a long time. So to me, the rule most likely will not apply. To me, the rule is there to guide, but the practicability is questionable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to add to what she said. She already spoke about the relationship bit of it. But, I mean, I don't know what the new MBA rules are. But like you said, I don't think it's very practical to say that there's going to be a standard for charging. However, I know about, when someone else is trying to, people are going to lowball. I don't think there's so much you can do to it. But what I think firms should always learn to achieve or attain is how to standardize their own pricing. If, like we mentioned, I don't know, whatever approach you want to use, whether it's value-based pricing or cost-based pricing, if you are very sure, and you have worked on your pricing, and you know this is actually a very competitive price, put it out there. Always also make room for flexibility, right? Sometimes it's not just, whether it's fixed fees or whatever it is, leave some space for flexibility and allow the client to be able to negotiate a bit. You know your own benchmark. You know where you can't go below. Right. When you get to that point, I strongly believe if the client still doesn't want to patronize you and they don't want to work with you, I don't think there is so much you can do. And if another firm comes up and has a better, most likely, even if you put up a proposal, there's probably somebody else who has a lower price than you. If that person, if they look at the value and they believe they can't genuinely afford it, and you guys have, spoken about the pricing, and you also can't go below it, because, like he said, there's no point trying to offer services when you make nothing from it, right? If at the barest minimum you've gotten to the point where you can't go below it, I think we'll just have to stick with that.
Yes. Yes, please. Okay.
This is because both Modupe and Jola have spoken in the same direction, and I think someone should speak at least for the NBA perspective.
Okay, so you have 1 minute.
1 minute. The 1 minute is this, yeah? There's a race to the bottom going on in professional services in Nigeria. It's dog eat dog. People undercut each other seriously.
Yes.
I think the NBA position is a clarion call to lawyers. Again, it's about culture.
Yes.
That is not our culture.
Yes.
Let the determinant of who the legal service provider should be not be based on fee, but on other qualitative aspects. Now, of course, if the client has issued an RFP, sometimes the determinant will be price. Can't do anything about that. But not when you write to my clients and the only distinguishing factor is that you can offer the client a discount on my fees.
Yes.
So it's I think, again, speaking to culture, that is not who we are as lawyers. We can play better. Let the other professionals be dog eating dog. Lawyers are not doing that. That, I think, is the intention.
That is a discussion for a whole new roundtable. Yes, it is. This legal profession and our culture and how it has evolved or not. So I'll save that for next year, perhaps. But just like that, our hour is up, and I honestly want to say that this has been a very, very interesting, inspiring, and enlightening hour. The discussions have been fresh. I think. So thank you, everybody. I, unfortunately, like I said, cannot stay for the Q&A session. Who's taking over from me? Okay. So thank you, everybody, and I hope the rest of the session goes well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Aisha. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, amazing panelists. This indeed is a very, very, very important subject. And because we've, over the years, talked about law being a business. And there have been quite a number of arguments here and there. But clearly, we are all sitting here today because we are involved in the practice and the business of law, and pricing is key. So, I mean, I've taken quite a number of notes. We are running straight into questions, and I think we'll just throw it out there and get the questions. But Jibola, you've talked about pricing funnel. Whatever it is you're taking out of here to, oh, Jola, I'm sorry, Jola, you talked about pricing funnel. So whatever it is you're taking out of here, make sure that as we rise out of here, 2, 3, 4 things will change in your practice. And also as an industry, I mean, as a legal industry, a few things, I'm sure that's what Alan, that's the purpose of all this. And very interestingly, Doctor has clearly said, which is best practice, that the lawyers settle your fees and then leave collections to Alan. Yes, and then there must be, and I think that it's something we should contemplate, deeper, because at the apex of every relationship is the trusted advisor. Is a trusted advisor relationship which you want to cultivate. You want to get to a place where your clients will not move a feet or will even contemplate about his daughter's school fees and call you. So in cultivating that relationship, you have to be very creative, like Mr. Fonja said, and very scientific about pricing. So agree the fees in cohorts with your clients. Fees is not something you agree independently, but in cohorts with your clients. So whatever it is you have taken from here, let us ensure that 2-3 things are changing immediately we get into our offices. So let us throw it out there. Are there questions? If you have questions, could you indicate? Thank you very much. The gentleman, yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Moyo Maku. Thank you to the panelists. Very insightful and educative. I took a lot of notes as well. So we had to structure the question because it's like a mixture of comments and remarks and questions as well. After I left the law firm I was in and tried to start my own thing, I discovered that it was really hard to articulate my value as a lawyer, because oftentimes you see that people will have discussed the actual business transaction and they bring lawyers come and do the paperwork. So at that point, you're already a commodity, you're not that valued. And so I think the challenge that I faced, and I still kind of face, is how do you articulate the value, your value, to the business or to the person? Because I believe that if the value is there, then the pricing will not be that much of a challenge. And I like to draw parallels with other products just for me to understand things, because people say, oh, legal is different. It's not really that different, because it's still about value. Everyone is hunting for value in the market, and when they find value, they'll pay anything for that value. And of course, there's a part of the client just being different. So someone that wants to buy a Rolls Royce or a Bugatti, for instance, probably is very price like it's not price resistant. Like, okay, this is $2 million, I'm going to pay $2 million for it. So I guess the question I have now is, number one, what role, if any, does helping lawyers better articulate their value, what role does that play in the fees you can charge? That's one. Number two, in terms of the actual figure that you put there, I listened to all the speakers and it still seems to be like there's no hard and fast rule. Yes. There's also no kind of guide, because someone is like, this is where it's easy to underrate yourself. Because, for example, I look at myself and say, okay, well, I'm not Templars, I'm not this and that, I'm not Aluko, this and that. But I may actually know a lot about a subject matter and be able to provide a service that when you look at the actual, okay, what's the content of this? It can actually compete with those law firms. Why should I now say, okay, well, because my cost structure is lower, I should now charge lower than Templars? That should be immaterial, technically speaking, because the result is the same. So why should I now use that to pull my stuff down, right? So perhaps the support should be, how can I present my value in such a way that someone is happy paying me that amount of money? Because if they will pay Templars that, it's because of the perception that if I give Templars, I can sleep with my 2 eyes closed and nothing will happen. And he's afraid that if I give this other person, something might happen. It's just really the perception. So how do we help ourselves, lawyers, young lawyers, new people starting up, how do we help ourselves to articulate that value such that when we charge, we can defend the fees that we charge? Of course, I don't believe in just charging a high price just because you want to make more money. You add value, but how do we articulate that value so that the clients feel more comfortable paying us, and we also feel confident to actually charge those fees and earn those fees with the work that we do?
Thank you very much. I would suggest we take the questions all together. Let's take it one by one, because so how do we articulate our value? Okay, so Mr. Jibola.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. It was something I was going to speak to, but it sort of escaped me. But I did speak to it at the very beginning. We've got to be very careful. We've got to understand that law is a business, and you're running a business. You've got to know what your costs are. You've got to know what your projected revenue is. You've got to know how much you want to pay yourself at the end of the year. It's not a function of what Ajumagobi and Okeke charge.
Indeed.
What is your own cost? At what point do you break even? Do you even know it? Now, you're going to pay rent, You're going to pay for electricity. You're going to pay for fuel to move your car around. Assuming you work, you go to court every day or 3 days a week, what does that cost? You put all your costs in. That's your total cost for the year. Your staff cost, everything. That's your cost for the year. So how much revenue do you need to generate to be able to cover those costs and then pay yourself a sizable profit? That is what, so part of what a Modupe as Chief Operating Officer would do would be to determine that and then factor that into a billing rate that then assumes how much work you have to do to be able to generate that revenue. Every law firm must do that. Now, I would hope every law firm can hire a Chief Operating Officer. Maybe not all can, but at least you can hire some professional, some practice professional to help you determine these costs. Lawyers are not trained to develop billing hours. Even though we did take a course at law school, at least I did when I was there in 88. So, but I hope they still have those courses on how to determine your fees, right? So if they don't, you can teach it to yourself. You can go online and read up about it. How do you determine that is how to determine your value, sir. Now, when you then determine your value, there's nothing saying that you must build that value. It's just that you have now known what your value is. So let's say my value is 100, and I know that Dr. Adefulu charges 500 per hour. Now, obviously, I know that my own, for me to break even, I need to bill at least 100 naira an hour. But I'm chasing the same client that Dr. Adefulu is working for, and I know Dr. Adefulu charges 500 an hour. So I can pitch myself at 300, right? If I pitch myself at 300, the client may say, Kinikon, you know, what do you know? We can settle to 250. At 250, I'm still above my 100, right? So I'm good. Imagine if I don't know that my value is 100. I will go into that discussion with the client. The client will push back and say, who are you? You don't even wear a bow tie like Dr. Adefulu. Why should I pay you 500? No, yeah, take 50, Joe. And I will be thinking, 50, thank God, though.
Yeah.
God has done it. But that 50 is penury. So the first thing every law firm must do is determine their hourly rate. Even if you're going to charge a success fee, you must still know what your hourly rates are. So at KPMG, how do we do it? We determine our value. And by the way, if you are working in VI where you are paying for a 10-story building, it's not the same as when you're working out of a bungalow in Ikorodu.
It's different.
So our rates cannot be the same because our costs are not the same. I will not pay someone working in Ikorodu the same as I pay someone working in VI. Nobody does that. So if my law firm is in Ikorodu, why am I benchmarking myself with Ajumogobi and Okeke?
Indeed.
Do you understand? So those are the things. Let's determine our value. Let every lawyer here do that work of understanding what their value is in terms of a business now. Then you can start layering in on that specialization. So Dr. Gabriel Onogurua is a specialist in energy, and what do you know? He's been doing this for 20 years. Another premium for specialization. Because if I'm going to attract, if I lose Gabriel, I have to go and hire someone like him. It's going to cost me something to get something like him. That's what we call opportunity cost.
Yeah.
We factor that also into our billing rates. If I leave KPMG today, for them to find someone like me, then go pay. Therefore, to keep me in KPMG, they must pay me a certain wage, which is more than the fact that I'm just 34 years at the bar. So there's a salary for someone who is 34 years at the bar. Then there's a salary for somebody who does what I do. Do you understand? So all those things. So I would encourage you all to do it. And for those that are big enough, I mean, we saw what Olaniwa Ajayi did, right? They hired a partner out of PwC UK to come and be their chief operating officer. And he transformed their firm, and the mandate was simple. Make us into something similar to a Big Four accounting firm. And that's what that white chap did. I forget his name now. You know, out of PwC London. So, I mean, Modupe came out of KPMG Nigeria, and she is transforming Stream Sowers and Corn. And there are other firms that are doing similar. I encourage you all to do it. Put the money where it is. I would rather disagree a bit with Gabriel when he says hire a professional to help you chase money. I mean, you can if you want to, but the model that I know works best, right? The professional should do it. You are the one sitting in front of that client every day. Bring up your fees.
And chase your fees?
Chase your fees. Now, you may not chase with the billing department. Okay, maybe you can get someone to go and chase with billing department.
Yeah, so exactly.
But you chase with your client, because your client is not the one going to pay that fee either. Your client is also going to call the billing department of his company to say, you haven't paid my lawyers now, what's going on?
Yes.
That is the pressure you need. So, and you see, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done, according to Thomas Hardy.
Yeah.
Start measuring people. Make it a KPI. Once it's a KPI for people, believe me, you'll get done. I hope I've answered your question, sir.
So you can bump up your value over time. Modupe, you want... Sorry,
I keep throwing you on that.
Okay, so I was just going to add one. Okay, he said he has mentioned some things I wanted to speak to, but one other thing I'm going to talk about is entrusting role to admin staff. I said something about the business of law. You will not see a CEO or a practice administrator come to your office and tell you how to do or how to interpret certain laws, because that is your area of expertise. But the question is, the people you've employed to support you, how well are you listening to them? You have a finance department. He said something about your data. I said something about data, and he also referred to it. What are they chunking out for you on a monthly basis? What is your client's capability ratio? Are they giving you this information? Do you have a BD team? What's your BD team telling you about your visibility? The person that asked the question said something about, maybe he might be able to deliver the same thing as Templars. Is the client seeing you in the same lens as Templars? In terms of visibility, what Templars is doing, are you open to doing that? Are you willing to sign up for subscriptions, for sponsorship and the likes? Do you understand? So like we said that let's compare Apple with Apple. And the best thing we can do to ourselves first is to tell ourselves the truth about where we are. Yes, we may want to attain to be this, but start from where you are by looking at your data, by enabling the people you've employed to assist your business really do their job of assisting you. Then you'll be able to upskill yourself and get to the place that you want to be, and the clients also can see you in that line, in that light. It's very, very important.
Thank you very much. Okay, you... Oh, doctor. How could I forget?
I think you already mentioned the idea of pricing, knowing exactly what your value is for the day. So exactly what that means is that for every hour that every associate in your firm is going to be in the office for the year, you know how much they're going to generate. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you know how much every minute of that associate's time, you know what it is worth. You know what every hour of that associate's time is worth. You've set an annual cap as to the minimum number of hours that that associate would work. So what you want to do, therefore, is rely on your historical data. You've done an M&A transaction this year. That associate, the junior associate, had to put in 200 hours to support on that transaction. You may have made a loss in that first year, but if you were quoting for that job in the previous year, this is where technology comes in. Yeah. You're appropriately going to price that associate at the right place and put him at the right place. And to leverage on technology, these days there are pricing tools. When you know the number of hours, you can put that in a pricing tool. These are tools developed by tech guys. Firms in the city already use this. And I'm sure that the tech men in Lagos and tech sector in Lagos can also develop things like this. Once you know the number of hours that your associates are going to work, you know the level where they are in, you will get a figure. Then you, knowing the business, can then moderate it. So there's a need. What I'm saying here is there is a need for technology to also be involved in this pricing and, should I say, modeling for you to know exactly how much you should charge your client. And on the issue of proving your value, you spoke about the fact that the deal was already fully cooked before you were brought in to document it. Right. Did you pick that agreement, analyze it, and highlight all of the things that are wrong with it, showing the client how they could have gotten a better deal, taking them through just a 1 hour session, the advantages they would have gotten if you were in the room at the point of negotiation? Or did you just take it and just document it? Becoming a trusted advisor is a process. And you cannot just meet the client today and look to become his trusted advisors. It takes time. It takes you showing value. It takes you showing the quality that you bring to the table. And that's why firms need to go through phases to be able to then be at the top to charge those rates. It's not possible for you to just be starting today without having any trajectory, any history behind you, and looking to charge the same fee as someone on the other side. It will take time. You need to show value, and then you can start to build up on those bases. I just wanted to contribute on that basis to the question that we've been discussing.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you. So profitability, your pricing affects profitability, and profitability should not be a year-end activity. So every single job you do, even client to client, lawyer to lawyer, you should be able to work to the T to identify profitability, not just at the end of the year. Okay. Yes. Oh, should we? Am I on the timing? Are you going to the end of this entire session? To the question. Okay. Could you make it just 1 minute so that we can take more?
Okay, thank you.
He wants to refer. He wants
Doctor already
answered into the same question.
Yes.
Okay.
Doctor already answered the last part of his conversation. He already elaborated on what I was going to talk about. In terms of, but just to add to it, right? There's something called brand equity. It is built over time.
Right.
There is no way any client is going to pay you. I actually think a lot of everywhere in all the law firms are very brilliant lawyers, but some people have actually invested in branding such that at every point they've made certain perceptions in the minds of their audiences. You haven't made it yet. You have the competence to do it, but nobody knows you yet, right? And just you need to accept that at the point where you're building, that's a sacrifice you have to make, right? Like Mr. Olomola said, you don't have to go below certain values, right? Once you understand your valuation, right, then you can actually start building on it. But it's important for you to understand that they're paying for the brand, right? They're paying for that reputation. You haven't built it yet. That reputational capital isn't there yet. So gradually with time, like Dr. Novora said, you'll be able to get there. So I just wanted to correct. Earlier I said purchasing funnel.
Oh, no. Purchasing funnel.
Yeah.
Marketing.
It's marketing and purchasing, yeah. I thought I heard pricing. It's not pricing funnel.
No,
purchasing.
purchasing.
Okay, purchasing or marketing funnel. Thank you.
You're right. For purchasing. Thank you. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Titi.
Titi.
Managing partner, Scott Legal. Okay, my question is to Ms. Afoja. You see that clients usually want to relate with the managing partner. They want you to do their work. Mr. Olomola said, you should be the one chasing the bills yourself also, as opposed to what Doctor said. How do you manage all of this? You want to do legal work. You know that the buck stops at your table. The money must come in. You must pay the staff. Everything stops at your table. How do you manage everything that you have to do as a managing partner to ensure that your clients are satisfied, the money is coming in, and things are working? And also to Mr. Olomola, you suggested that we could take some, it doesn't have to be a COO, other professionals. What do you suggest? A regular accountant, is it sufficient to do that analysis that you spoke about? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You need a team of people to work with you. You can't do it alone. And the way I've been able to manage is that I have a support system administratively that assists with the different tasks that a managing partner is required to perform within the firm. That's really the short answer. The long answer is, do I still sleep late? Yes. Do I still work hard? Yes. How long does it take to take decisions? Sometimes very long, sometimes very short, you know. But the key thing is that you need a team of people that would support you and, you know, are competent enough to ensure that when you're taking decisions and handling those tasks as the managing partner, they've already taken quite a bit out of it for you, so that you're really looking at it from the top and you're able to strategically make that decision to take the firm to the next level based on whatever the issue is. Practical tips. I've sort of stepped back not even sort of, actually, I would say possibly 80%, I don't do legal work since I became the managing partner. I've sort of like, again, not just the admin team now, but you also need lawyers that can take that load off you. So I really do step back, and do that. Now, in terms of interfacing with the client, yes, the first meeting, you go for the first meeting as the managing partner and all that. But the key thing is that you need to delegate and fan out the work to other people, right? So there's some clients that, and I hope they're not listening, clingy clients, right?
Yeah,
So what I was just saying was, they really want to see you because you've built so much relationship and reputation, and just because also the level where you're at in the firm, there's some clients you can't avoid, and you really do still have to. But the key thing is that, we call it expo, do the first meeting, the subsequent meetings, the others. Come into the meeting, do the first 20 minutes. Oh, thank you very much. And make sure that your team members say, oh, before the meeting starts, our managing partner is going to come in, but we're so sorry, she actually has a meeting in about 30 minutes, so she'll only be able to spend 30 minutes. That's it. So it's also being creative and realizing that you have so many hats you're wearing, and then you find people that can actually support you in all those areas. But it is doable.
Wow. Thank you. So, Alan did, or ALA, just before you take, just to add very quickly to that, ALA did a survey twice, I think 2008, 2008, and I think 2017, where it was discovered that it takes about 66 competencies to run a law firm. See, Odun should share that competencies to show you the burden of running a law firm successfully. And that is beyond your technical abilities. 66 competencies under 5 headings. Over 1,300 law firms and managing partners were polled. So it's a business.
I think that, let me just add something,
Yes.
because if you don't have the size, that's also important to point out to them.
Indeed.
If you don't have the size, you would have to, as a person, build the skill,
Indeed.
wear different hats, and then perhaps multitask people. You
Yes,
understand? And empower
yes.
them to be able to do 2-3 things,
Yes.
to deal with that particular level. But always also have at the back of your mind growth and the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Jibala.
Well said. I was going to add that, but you did. All right. The remainder question for me is quite simple. You can't do what you can't afford, right? So different law firms are different sizes and stages of their evolution. So I wouldn't imagine that every single law firm out there would be able to hire a finance director or a chief operating officer. If you can, if you are there, you should do it. But if you are not, you can hire an accountant. You may even find that you can't afford to hire one. What you then do is consult with one, so you can engage a consulting firm to come help you do the models because you're still so small you can't afford it yourself. But as soon as you can achieve scale, you can start bringing in those other external non-legal resources, we call them, to help you run your practice. And you can then put them under some administrative head that probably reports to the managing partner. That's yourself.
Also want to encourage us to pool resources as well.
Oh, yes.
The thing about law firms, we've always kind of acted in silos. Law firms in the UK and the US, well, I mean, the ones we deal with are large, much larger than us, and they share the costs per head over a large pool. But if there are resources available that we can pool and work together on, I might call SSK and say I want to share their CEO, for example, or accountant.
For 2 days.
But really, we should be looking at that. It will help us to reduce our costs as well.
Okay, go ahead.
So in addition to all that's been said, you could also ask yourself, what can I outsource? You don't have to do everything internally. So there are companies that are coming up now that does HR outsourcing, even a finance outsourcing. So ask yourself, what service can I outsource? then you may also have to do its personal evaluation. Ask yourself, what are my strengths? So build on your strength, focus more on your strength, and the places where you may feel, oh, I think I may struggle a bit in this area, then you can maybe outsource or look for a way to, perhaps amongst your team, you may be able to find someone that has that as their strength, then you'll be able to give them the responsibility. Also, there's a word you use, in multitasking your people, you have to look for a way to tie it to their KPIs. If people see it as them doing you a favor, be rest assured they will at the point not take it so serious. So in multitasking, you may want to look for a way to tie it to their performance, maybe to your appraisal, then you now keep tie it to your next financial year or half year KPI. So that way people know what they should deliver on and they know what they'll be measured on. That way you'll be able to push them to do a little more than what they will do, should it be that you are just asking them to undo that as a secondary task. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Modupe. So we have some questions online. We can take one as we round up.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first question is from Covenant ESQ. In the face of the schedules to the Remuneration Order 2023, which provided for statutory rates and fixed amounts, how do we wear different caps to different clients without contravening the law?
Could you repeat?
Let me repeat the question, because it contained a lot of... in the face of the schedules to the Remuneration Order 2023, which provided for statutory rates and fixed amounts, how do we wear different caps to different clients without contravening the law?
My understanding of the question is because the scale or the schedule talks about different levels. Is that what the person is saying? So
amount.
A fixed amount if you're a SAN, if you're an associate, if you are so many years at the bar. Again, I'm not sure it's a question of wearing different hats, but a question of the team that you have, if it comprises of the different hats. Then you can structure your pricing in such a way that you'd be able to charge for each member of your team in line with what has been stated in the order. And please bear in mind, the order actually sets out the minimum. So it's not so much as that you have to charge that, but it's the minimum amounts that you can charge. So you can actually charge above that, and that will, you still be in compliance with the order. Now, I'm not sure, I hope that's the question the person was asking.
So I think that in terms of having different clients that are able to pay, because ordinarily, generally in economics, pricing is driven by supply, demand, buyer behavior, and a few other things. So I think that individual is also saying, these are fixed caps, and thankfully, Mr. Fanja has clarified that it is the minimum. But if you have a client that is not able to pay, he's saying, can you tweak? Yes, because not all clients are your clients, like you said. So I have a client that is not able to pay within this cap. How does he
That's why
maneuvers?
The order provides for you to make an application to let them know that you want you would have to charge, or you want to charge them below the minimum prescribed fee in that for that particular service that you wish to render to the client. So the order allows you to actually, request a waiver or a leave to be able to charge less than what it is. Is that
is really helpful. Yeah. So that is really helpful. We need to bear that in mind, even in our pricing. That you can, it's not hard and fast. It also leaves room for negotiation.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
Are we good? Okay.
So one more question from participants online. This is from Atika Abdullahi Idris. My question is, how can you stylistically charge a client how can you stylistically charge a client on quantum merit basis? Where a client tends to withdraw your services after investing in the client? Yeah, the participants online are dropping some really...
Can you repeat that question?
How can you stylistically charge a client on quantum merit basis?
Quantum merit basis.
Where a client tends to withdraw your services after investing in the client.
Oh, okay. They've talked about transparency here. Modupe, do you want to address that? If you know the client is going to withdraw the work after, over a period of time. So,
so you can recover more.
Oof.
Okay, my understanding
So where's
is
transparency
that so you have a client
there?
that has a habit of not paying your fees on time, and it's built up over time, and it's come back now. You have him where it hurts, and so you want to bill him based on quantum merit, more than you would have charged ordinarily to recover some of your past expenditure. So how do you do it stylishly? That's his question. Managing partner?
Well, how do you build stylishly? You see, you just build, because if you've already established a pattern of billing, anything you do is not really stylish at the end of the day, because he's going to see right away that you're deviating from what you've done in the past. The important thing is that be transparent about it, and also ensure that whatever you are billing, I'm sure there are ways in which you can add a premium to it if you show the value and the reason for why you have to add that premium to sort of deal with, the past. And then again, it also depends on a lot of things. Sometimes you do what I call loss leaders. So for this, it may be the situation for this client, you sort of charge a little less, right? Because you're looking at something bigger in the picture. But again, transparency comes in because you tell them that, look, the reason why I'm charging 5 naira for this is because I see that there's a 15 naira coming, right ahead. And when that 15 naira comes, you can charge it because you've already sort of let him know that's it. But transparency is key, letting the client know, and if possible, you can justify the premium you want to put to make up for the lower fees that were paid earlier on.
So my bit is, by adding a premium, is it that the client, the lawyer has written off the old bill? If they're still in the category of unpaid bills, they're unpaid bills. And you come now, there's something you want me to do, then there's the conversation. Sorry, we have this outstanding, we have to get it done before we move on to this. So yes, you've come to me because you believe in my services, but then there should be a conversation about how do we offset the proud bill.
The question would seem to, my understanding of the question would seem to be like, it's not so much as their outstanding fees, but that you've been charging such a little less than you should actually charge, and you want to make up by charging so much more in this one. I mean, but you are correct. If they're outstanding fees, have that conversation. You are owing me X, Y, Z, and we do have those conversations, X, Y, Z, But again, Jibola just mentioned something. If it's you also look at it, right? If it's something that if you charge now, it takes care of all the previous bills, then you can actually write off the previous bills and then know that you're getting everything from this one.
Exactly. Yeah. But also, again, we have to be realistic about the ability of the client to pay.
Oh, yes. That's why I said it's an emotion. It's a science and an art. Well, yes, I should say that. Yes, thank you. I was going to say that too. So you also have to understand, which is the art part and partly science too, where your value sits with the client. Is it commoditized work where, whatever, when it's commoditized work, their resistance to pricing will be higher. But if it's specialized, if it's an all bets off work, their resistance to pricing or their sensitivity to pricing will be lower. So it's also important to find out where it sits, not so much as the value you're bringing, but how they perceive it and where it sits with them. Because the higher it sits with them, the less sensitive they will be to prices. But the lower, the more sensitive they will be to prices.
Thank you. Are we able to take one last?
Yes,
okay. Yes.
Yeah. So final question for today.
Thank you very much. My question is, how practical is it for support staff now to be recovery agents to non-paying clients? Non-paying, you've done a lot of work, and the clients they've stopped giving you work, but yet you have outstanding bills with them. Yes,
giving you work.
They've given you loads of work to do.
The president of Ireland is itching to answer that one. Because it's addressed to the business professionals.
All right. Look, there's something I've learned. If you have done work, don't be shy to collect your money. It wasn't free in the first place. It's service. And if you value your service, you shouldn't shy away from pursuing, if I will use the word, what is due to you. So you keep following up. You know, I'll use an adage that my lead partner, taught me then. Make sure they don't drink water. And even if they pick the cup and they try to drink water, make sure they're not able to put the cup down. What that means is chase your money till you get it, because your people worked for it. It's practical. It's that simple.
Because you also said, what is the role of the admin, the support staff? So there's some instances where we just ask the accounting section and the finance manager to actually write the letters to the clients that is owing, and then they are responsible for, just sending out those letters and following it up. There is no straight line, to these things. Each situation and each client will determine how you would do it. But you can ask your finance manager. Again, depending things like, I said earlier on that we actually, sort of commence winding up proceedings. Those are the really extreme cases. I mean, we are looking at 6 years owing you. So those are the extreme cases. And in those kind of instances, if you want to sort of distance the lawyers, then you get the finance manager to write that demand letter to them, or any support staff you have. Yes.
Let me just steal Jola's thunder by saying this. This is one area where lawyers can lose a lot of brand value, because your support staff are not lawyers. They don't think like lawyers. They don't write like lawyers. You go and send the wrong support staff to go and chase your client for money. Okay. The client is going to think, is this what I'm paying for? I mean, I've heard of people sending, okay, let me not say they are lawyers. Let's say sending other professionals, not lawyers. Well, I'm sure you can read between the lines, out of their office because they're smelling. Now, if I chase you out of my office, you come into my deodorized office and you are stinking, and I have to chase you out so I can breathe, the next time I have a brief to give out, believe me, it's not coming to your firm. So be careful in using your support staff. Make sure they fit the purpose.
Properly trained, yes.
So if they're going to write a letter, when I was at F.R.A. Williams, we had a client, one of my most beloved clients. You send him a letter, before he responds to you, he will send it back to you, marking the English in red biro. After a while, none of the lawyers in the firm wanted to deal with him. I was the only one who kept dealing with him. But some clients are that fastidious. So be careful when you are sending your support staff, that you are sending the right kind of support staff.
Indeed.
Hopefully someone who is trained for the job. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very, very much.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to what he said. When I was in PwC then, they used to have a policy where the manager on the job used to be the one to actually chase the invoices. It is part of your KPI. If you are not able to recover money from the clients, something else is going to suffer for it. So the person doesn't go to the offices, to their offices to go and look for, but you have a way of escalating the issues until it gets to the highest authority, because you know that it's your promotion is dependent on that. So I think it's something that, I don't know if it's obtainable in KPMG too, but there are a couple of these law firms, these professional services firms that have found a way to balance that, collection of money. You will still run into clients that will still not pay. So at that point in time, you have escalated it, you have tried your best, and then, let the people at the top deal with it at that level. Just wanted to add that to you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Jola. So clearly there are layers to recovery. Realization, collections, it's also called realization. It can also be part of the KPIs of our lawyers. But very importantly, what we have also taken out of here, collections definitely is part of, the matrix for evaluation in some law firms. But also we are taking out of here that collections can be and should be part of the KPIs of a professional staff that is well trained. And law firms generally should have a policy around pricing and around what you will do with different ages of your billings. So 30 days, what would you do? 60 days, what would you do? 90 days, what would you do? That has to be cleared. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been a most stimulating conversation and many more things to discuss, because this also has thrown up a lot of questions about our data keeping. It's all about keeping the right data. Data, data, data. And I hope we didn't forget Doc Onogurua. Thank you so much. On behalf of NBSBL, Dr. Adeoye is not here right now, and the Alan team. We want to say thank you to our distinguished panelists, the moderator also in absentia. We are so grateful for this discussion. It's a generative discussion, and it really would change the way we practice even as an industry. Thank you very, very much. I would hand over to Tony. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to call on Fumi Olayinka Emmanuel to give us the closing remarks and the vote of thanks. Oh, you want to take a picture? Oh, a picture with panels. Okay, that's fine. Okay, sorry about that, Fumi. Thank you once again to our panelists. A round of applause for the panelists, please. I know we have many more questions, but we can go home with these and work on the others.
So rounding off, on behalf of Alan, I would like to thank all of you for your time, attention, and most importantly, your support. We appreciate the panel of speakers who are seasoned professionals in their different areas of practice. You will all agree with me that they have done justice to the theme of this event, pricing legal services in a depressed market. I am sure that we all have gleaned innovative ideas from our erudite speakers, which we will endeavor to inculcate into our strategies in our various organizations. Massive thanks to the law firms who sponsored this year's Managing Partner Roundtable. May your business continue to prosper. Collaboration and knowledge sharing amongst industry peers are pivotal in navigating these uncertain times successfully. So let's keep the conversation going. Kudos to the leadership of Alan in conjunction with NBSBL for coming up with this laudable and interactive initiative. Many thanks to everyone who has made time out to attend in person and virtually. We look forward to having a more outstanding outing next year. Thank you again very much.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. So we have gifts for our panelists. A token just to appreciate them for making our time to be here and sharing their wealth of knowledge and experience with us. So on behalf of Alan and NBSBL, Presido. Okay. Please do not forget, if you want to join Alan as a member, you can speak to me or Ijoma. Just ask for Ijoma outside. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next year at the 2024 edition of the Managing Partner Roundtable. So, I think we'll take a picture. Let's take a picture of all the members, team members. Alan team members, if you are part of the organizing committee or part of the organizing team of Alan Escos, please come into the hall. We need to take a picture.